Bonjour. Today we are talking about reflexive verbs, and reflexive verbs are this whole entire family that we just haven't talked about yet. Okay, so it kind of goes along with our ER verbs, IR verbs, RE verbs, but these are very, very special verbs. Okay, first things first, reflexive verbs. A reflexive verb is any verb that you do to yourself. Okay, it's reflexive because you're the one receiving the action of the verb, or whoever the subject is the one receiving the action of the verb. Okay, so you can always recognize a reflexive verb because it has a s on the front of it. It's a totally little different word. Okay, and you'll see that here throughout this presentation. Okay, so like I said, you can always recognize a reflexive verb because of the s on the front of it. Okay, so almost any verb can be reflexive. Okay, so even verbs that we've already learned before, like parler. Okay, if I am talking to myself, then I could say, I can make parler a reflexive verb. Or if I am looking at myself in the mirror, I can say that regarder is a reflexive verb. Okay. And then the same thing, any of these verbs can be made non reflexive if you're doing it to somebody else. Like if you're brushing somebody else's hair or you're dressing somebody else, like a baby or a doll or a dog or something like that. Okay. So, like I said, these verbs are very, very versatile. Okay. But again, there's a lot of these verbs that when we talk about getting ready, like brushing our hair and brushing our teeth and washing our face and things like that, that is all going to be reflexive because we're washing our own face, we're brushing our own hair, and we're brushing our own teeth, hopefully. Okay. So, for example, lave. We have lave. We learned lave way back when, which is to wash. So that's not reflexive. But, oh, well, here's the example. So if I say, je lave la voiture, I am washing the car, or I wash the car. The car is not a part of me. So therefore, this is just a plain old regular verb. But if I have se lave, you see that se is making this a reflexive verb. So now all of a sudden that definition tweaks slightly because it's to wash oneself. So then instead of washing the car, if I want to say je me lave les mains, that's basically I'm washing my hands. And here you have to put the body part out here. Okay, so je me lave, I can go ahead and add that sentence right there. Je me lave is I'm washing myself. Okay, but if I want to add a body part, and I'll talk more about this later, but yeah, if I want to add a body part, go ahead and put it. But je me lave, perfectly fine. But usually we do add body parts to say which body part we're washing. Okay, now I love this from the book, so I did just kind of take a picture of it and upload it, okay? So in here, you see il lave son enfant, so you see the elephant. The elephant is washing his child, is washing his son. So then here, again, this is not reflexive, okay? Because he's washing something other than himself. But over here on the right, you do see this il se lave, and now he's washing himself. So this one here on the right is reflexive, and the one on the left is not. Okay, the one on the left is just a regular verb. Now, how to conjugate a regular verb. Okay, most of the endings for reflexive verbs are normal. So if it's got an ER, an IR, an RE, etc., if it's irregular, like venir or dormir, it's all going to be conjugated the same way. Okay, if you add accents, making spelling changes in the regular, like boot verbs and things like that, you're going to do it in the reflexive as well. Okay, but the big differences are these pronouns of what to do with this s. It doesn't stay s all the time. So for an example, I'm going to go ahead and take salave, okay, since that's the verb that I used on the previous two slides where we're talking about the elephant washing the baby or the you're washing yourself or the elephant's washing himself, okay? So here's the whole verb conjugation. So when we have a je, that little s changes to a m, okay? So je me lave, I wash myself. And notice, it's an ER verb, so we're still going to have the E like a normal ER verb for the je form. Tu te laves, okay? So once again, we have this te, that is always going to have to go with tu, and then we have our normal es ending. Then il, elle, se lave, that se is going to stay, okay? And then we still have that e ending. So far it is je me, tu te, il se, elle se. They always have to match, or you're doing it wrong. If you have a je, it's got to be a me with it, je me. If you have a tu, it's got to be a te, tu te. And then the same thing with il and elle, got to be a se. Now, the nous and the vous form, all right? Look at this. We've got a nous lavons. So we are washing ourselves. And I know it sounds really weird. It looks really weird to see those nous back to back, but that is correct. So nous lavons, and once again, we've got our ONS ending. Vous lavez, again with our normal easy ending. And then ils, elles, se lave. So these little pieces, these little pronouns are me, te, se, nous, vous, se. And again, we've got that ENT ending for that ils, elles. All right, let's go ahead and repeat this before we go on. Je me lave. Tu te laves. Il se lave. Elle se lave. Nous nous lavons. Vous vous lavez. Il se lave. Elle se lave. And again, remember, inside that boot, the je, me, tu, te, all of those verbs sound the same. Je me lave, tu te laves, il, elle se lave, ils, elles se lave. Don't pronounce that ENT. Okay, so really the only two endings you hear are that ONS and that EZ. Nous nous lavons, vous vous lavez. Okay, let's keep going. Now, I have given you a few more verbs, okay, and this one is on the front of the packet. Okay, if you do want to have that packet ready, you are going to need it, or you are going to need some paper to write some definitions down here on these next few slides. Now, s'habiller is the verb to dress oneself. Once again, if you are dressing something or somebody else, well, then it's not going to be reflexive, and you could just take the se off of it. Okay, but if you are dressing yourself, it's going to be reflexive. Now, notice how this H is working like a vowel. So that is going to affect our me, tes, and ses. Okay, so if I want to say that I'm dressing myself, or I get dressed before I brush my teeth, or something like that, then you can have je m'habille. And again, that M apostrophe is because that H is working like a vowel. Tu t'habilles. Again, the t changes to a T apostrophe because of that H. Il and elle s'habillent. Again, that S is going to an S apostrophe. Now, nous nous habillons, vous vous habillez, ils s'habillent, elles s'habillent. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pronounce that through without stopping. Je m'habille. Tu t'habilles. Il s'habille. Elle s'habille. Nous nous habillons. Vous vous habillez. Il s'habille. Elle s'habille. Okay, now this next verb here, I think you'll actually find it quite familiar. You just never knew that it was a reflexive verb. Okay, so we've got s'appeler. S'appeler is actually going to be on our list of spelling change verbs. Okay, so s'appeler, this one is a spelling change verb because in this case it only has one L. But it is a boot verb, and unfortunately the way that I have the slide, I can't show you it in a boot verb just because I've kind of done them all in a list, okay? But inside the boot, like I said, this is a boot verb, okay? Inside the boot, the L doubles. So that means we get je m'appelle, tu t'appelles, il s'appelle, elle s'appelle, nous nous appelons, vous vous appelez, il s'appelle, elle s'appelle. And hopefully by now you've recognized this from French 1, okay? So now you understand why it is je m'appelle. See, so we have been using this since French 1. I was just never able to explain to you why that M apostrophe is happening, or then once again when we say what's your name and we say comment tu t'appelles, that's why it's tu te, is because this is a reflexive verb, but like I said, I've never been able to kind of give you the details. That's another reason why this doubles the L, okay? So, je m'appelle, tu t'appelles, il s'appelle, elle s'appelle, nous nous appelons. Notice, because it's a boot verb, we only have one L there, just like up here. Okay, vous vous appelez, once again, only one L because of that. And then back to double L's, il s'appelle, elle s'appelle. So once again, now you understand, and I did explain this to you in French 1, that je m'appelle doesn't mean my name is. It is literally saying I call myself. I call myself George, or I call myself Anne, or I call myself whatever. Okay. So we've been using these reflexive verbs, but like I said, I was just never able to explain to you why. Notice again, our endings are still E, ES, E, ONS, EZ, ENT, like we've done before, because it is an ER verb. Okay. Now, go ahead and get that packet out if you want to manipulate the text in some sort of way and manipulate the document so you can write down these definitions, or go ahead and just write them down on paper. But we are going to go ahead and go through this, and that's why I'm literally copying it straight from the front of that packet. And I'm going to try to make my handwriting pretty small so we can fit it in, and it's not going to be too messy. Okay. First of all, let's do definitions. So s'amuser. S'amuser is to have fun. Okay, so it's mostly to amuse yourself. Okay, so amuser, yeah, that's to have fun. But then s'amuser is almost to like to amuse yourself. Okay, s'arrêter. Well, it's kind of like to arrest. Okay, so to stop oneself. So if you stop yourself from saying something, you stop yourself from crossing the street, that's going to be s'arrêter. Or I stopped at the store to get peanut butter or whatever. Okay. Now, if you want to stop somebody else, like he stopped me from running out in front of that car, well, then it's not going to be reflexive. But in this case, it's going to say I stopped myself. Now, se blesser, you have to watch out for this one, all right? Se blesser is not to bless. It has nothing to do with blessing. In fact, it's one of those words where it is that faux ami, that false cognate. Se blesser is to hurt yourself, okay? So to hurt yourself, to hurt oneself. Now, se brosser is to brush. And once again, that is to brush oneself. So usually we add a body part to that. Okay, so to brush, like to brush your hair, brush your teeth. Se coucher is to go to bed. Oops, go to bed. Okay. Se débrouiller is to get by or to manage. Okay. It is like to muddle through something. Okay. Se fâcher. Se fâcher is to get angry or to get ticked off. S'habiller, as we saw on the other side, is to dress oneself. S'intéresser is to be interested in something, and that kind of makes sense. Se laver, again, we've already seen this on the other slides, is to wash oneself. And once again, you can leave it by itself, or you can add a body part if you need to say, I wash my hands, wash my face, wash my hair. Se maquiller is to put on makeup. Okay, so to put on makeup. Se raser is to shave. And again, if you want to add a body part to that one, you can, but you don't have to. Okay. Now, se déshabiller, well, do you see how habiller is right in there? Okay, so habiller is to get dressed. So se déshabiller is to get undressed. Okay. Now, se moquer de is to make fun of. And that's why we have that de there. So to make fun of, you see moquer, that's kind of like the English word mock. Okay, and what are you doing when you're mocking somebody? You're making fun of them. Okay, so se moquer de is to make fun of somebody. S'occuper de is to be busy with something or to take care of. So if you're saying like, oh, I'm taking care of my little brother, or I'm taking care of the dog, or I'm taking care of this, that's s'occuper de, okay? Se passer is to happen. Okay. Se passer de is to do without. So if you want to say, oh, hey, I left my book at home, so I guess I'm just going to have to do without it today, that's going to be that verb. Okay. Se peigner is to comb, like to comb your hair. And you don't always need a body part with that one, simply because we really only use to comb to talk about combing your hair, okay? So if I just say je me peine, it's obviously automatically assumed that it's combing your hair, okay? Se préparer, again, is to prepare yourself or to prepare oneself. So that could be something like, if you're preparing yourself in the morning, like you're just getting ready, you can say, I'm preparing myself for the test coming up, or the concert, or the recital that I have to have, or the big game that's coming up. Anytime, like I said, you kind of like get ready for it, that would be se préparer. Se reposer is to relax. Okay, so if you're relaxing on the couch, relaxing on the hammock, or whatever, that's going to be to relax. Se retrouver is to meet up. And that's usually it's got to be plural because you're meeting up with friends. Okay, so I'll write that. Se réveiller is to wake up. So even if you want to say like, oh, today I woke up at 7, or I wake up every day at 10, or something to that effect. But once again, you're waking yourself up. Okay, now, se tromper. Okay, se tromper is to make a mistake. Tromper is actually the verb to trick, okay? So if I tricked somebody, then it's just going to be tromper. But so really when we're making reflexive, it's like you're tricking yourself because you thought it was one thing and it was the wrong answer, okay? So se tromper is going to be to make a mistake. Se trouver is to be located. So you're going to say, where's the Louvre? Where's the Louvre located? You could say, où se trouve le Louvre? Or where's the post office located? Où se trouve la poste? Se dépêcher is to hurry. Okay, so I hurried to catch the bus. I hurried downstairs for dinner, something like that. All right, so se dépêcher. Now, s'endormir, it is to fall asleep. Okay. And we can see it because we've got dormir right in there. Now, I do have a star by it because it is an irregular conjugation. All the rest of these are regular RE verbs. Okay, but s'endormir, it's going to be conjugated like dormir. Okay, so let me see if I can just get it off to the top. Okay, so it's going to be je m'endors with an S, tu t'endors with an S, and then il s'endort with a D-O-R-T. Then it's going to be nous. You see that nous, NS, NS, okay? Nous endormons. Vous endormez. And then ils s'endorment, D-O-R-M-E-N-T, if I can squeeze it in. Whoops. Okay. So, sorry, that got cut off there. It's, let me write it again. Dorm. Okay, so once again, if you need it, look up s'endormir. So once again, besides endormir, s'endormir, all of these are regular ER verbs. So you should be able to conjugate all of these. Now, by the way, I did want to mention just a difference, se coucher and s'endormir, okay? Remember, se coucher is to go to bed, s'endormir is to fall asleep, because we do understand that we don't always fall asleep as soon as we get in bed. So we could have a sentence like, oh, last night I went to bed, so use se coucher to say I went to bed at 10:30, but I couldn't fall asleep until midnight. So you see how we have those two different verbs, all right? So se coucher would be to go to bed, and then s'endormir would be to fall asleep. Okay. Now, even if you say something like, oh, I fell asleep in class, or I fell asleep during the movie, or something like that, it doesn't have to be like laying in your bed. Okay. You can use s'endormir for that. Now, in the same vein of things, se réveiller is going to be one. Okay. Se réveiller is to wake up, but then I have another one here on the next slide, which is to get up. Because again, you don't always get up at the same exact time you wake up. Sometimes we lay in bed for a while before we do that. Okay, so if you need to pause this and, like I said, write some of these definitions down, go right ahead. All right, but I'm going to keep going. Now, these are more spelling change verbs, okay? So once again, these are on the front of that packet, okay? But we only have about 6 of them. There are a few more, but again, I've only put 6 on the packet. And again, all of these are boot verbs, okay? All of them have spelling changes in some way, shape, or form, okay? So s'acheter is to buy yourself something. So if I want to say, I bought myself a new car, or I bought myself a new pair of shoes, something like that, that is going to be s'acheter. Now, the spelling change that's going to happen inside the boot is that accent grave on that E, okay? So if you were writing these out in your notes, make sure you put that. But remember, it's only in the boot verb, in the boot, okay? Now, s'appeler, that was the one that was on my other slide, all right? It is to call oneself, as in I call myself George or whatever, and that, again, is going to double that L. And again, if you need to refer back to that previous slide where I've already conjugated it for you, please do so. Now, se rappeler, it is very, very similar, but we just have an R on the front of it. So since this one up here, s'appeler, is to call, well, this one's to do it again. So this is to recall, as in I recalled that your birthday was the other day, and I'm sorry I forgot, or something like that. Or I recalled that we had a test today and it's too late, or something like that. But it's to recall, as in to kind of to remember. It's not like to call again. Now, once again, it is going to be like s'appeler, then that means that that L is going to double inside the boot. Now, s'ennuyer. S'ennuyer is to get bored. And this is going to change to an I inside the boot only. Okay, so once again, if you're conjugating them, conjugate those out. Now, se lever is the one that I talked about just on the other slide. Se lever is to get up. Okay, and this one is a boot verb because this one would be kind of like acheter, where you have to add that accent grave inside the boot. So on the je, tu, il, elle, ils, elles. Now, once again, this is to get up, and it doesn't always have to be to get up out of bed. Okay, it could be to get up off the couch, to get up off the floor, to get up, upstairs or something like that. Okay. Now, lever, what does a lever do? It's raising yourself. Okay. It's raising up something. If the magician levitates a woman off the table, he is raising her off the table. Okay. So that is se lever. So once again, this is not to wake up. This is to get up. Now, se promener is to walk. Now, this is not to walk the dog because that would have a direct object, but this is more like I'm walking myself. Okay, so if I'm strolling around the park or I'm walking down the street, this is a verb you can use. Now, this one, again, is going to be like se lever and s'acheter, where we are going to have to add that accent grave on that E inside the boot. Okay, now this one I did not include on the packet, but it is so, so important because we do end up using it a lot. Okay, and this is the verb se souvenir de. And I went ahead and conjugated it out for you, okay? But se souvenir de is to remember. Because after all, why do we buy souvenirs but to remember something? So there's souvenir. And guys, it is conjugated like venir. But I know it's been a while since we've done venir, so that's why I went ahead and just conjugated it out for you. So, je me souviens, tu te souviens, il, elle se souvient. Nous nous souvenons, vous vous souvenez, ils, elles souviennent. So you can see because venir is a boot verb, well, this one is too because of that I-E-N, 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 I-E-N. Okay, so again, go ahead and add that to your packet or go ahead and add that to your notes. Okay, we've got the big stuff done. Now, making them negative. Okay, making them negative, the ne pas goes around the verb like normal, but you just need to make sure you put the pronoun inside the sandwich. Okay, so il ne se rase pas tous les jours. So if you remember from our other slide, se rase is to shave. So il ne se rase pas tous les jours is he doesn't shave himself every day. He doesn't shave every day. Okay, nous ne nous lavons pas les mains assez souvent. So notice how, yeah, it breaks up those two nous. And that's how we remember where the ne goes, because it's not nous, nous, ne. No, it's nous, ne, nous. All right, nous ne nous lavons pas les mains assez souvent. We don't wash our hands enough or often enough. We don't wash our hands often enough. Now, tu ne te lèves pas avant 10 heures du matin. So there's that other verb that I just talked about because of that spelling change, and that's why we have that accent there. So, tu ne te lèves pas avant 10 heures du matin. You don't wake up before 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm sorry, you do not get up before 10 o'clock in the morning. Je ne me maquille pas le week-end. Okay, so again, me maquiller is to put on makeup. So, je ne me maquille pas le week-end is I don't put on makeup on the weekends. Okay. Now, one more thing, and I've kind of showed it to you in examples, but now we're just officially talking about it. When you are using reflexive verbs with body parts, it's always le, la, lay in front of the body part. You don't need to say my hair or my face or my hands. No, 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 no. It's for body parts, it's le, la, lay. Okay? So, for example, if we say je me brosse, remember, is to brush. So if I say je me brosse, period, that's I brush myself. And it is kind of weird because we're not a dog. We're not covered in hair. Okay, we're not Chewbacca. So once again, je me brosse is like I'm brushing myself. That's a little weird, okay? But you need to add the body part. What are you brushing? So, je me brosse les cheveux. Once again, it's I brush the hair of myself. Okay, so that is why we are saying the le la lay before the body part, because it's the hair. Je me brosse les cheveux. Or we can say je me brosse les dents. I brush the teeth of myself, basically, is I brush my teeth. Okay, well, that is it. And so once again, if you need to go back and get those definitions or you go back and look over this again, please go ahead and watch. And again, as always, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I am more than happy to help.